So consider test your understanding 1, which has been taken from your Kaplan textbook, and it is a good illustration in order to determine that how a transfer of value is to be figured out. Though, let me just tell you that in most of the questions, you people are given with the transfer of value, but there could be a chance that whensoever the transfer is going to take place in the lifetime of a donor, an examiner might not tell you the transfer of value, and in that case, you will have to figure it out yourself. So let's see how the transfer of value shall have to be determined. So this test your understanding states that Linda owns 6,000 shares, which represents a 60% holding in Loot Limited. On 31st December 2023, she gave 20% holding in the company to her friend Bob. See, out of the total shareholding that she has transferred 20% shareholding to her friend, and that would mean that she is left with 40% of the shareholding. The values of the shareholding in Loot Limited on 31st December 2023 have been agreed for IHT purposes as follows. Up to 25%, value per share is of £9. From 26% to 50%, the value per share is of £15. While from 51% to 74%, value per share is going to be higher. It would then become £26 per share. And where the shareholding is either equivalent to or more than 75%, in such cases, value per share is going to be of £45. This is normally the case whensoever an individual is having a shareholding in an unquoted company, because higher the shareholding is, higher would be the value per share. So here, the transfer of value is not straight away given in the question, rather we have to calculate it. So the requirement is that calculate Linda's transfer of value relating to the gift of unquoted shares for IHT purposes. So number one thing which I need to identify, that this transfer shall be declared as potentially exempt transfer. And now I need to see that what had been the value of Linda's estate before she had made the transfer. Keep one thing in mind, that we will be carrying out the calculation from donor's perspective. So in this case, as Linda is going to give away, we will be doing the calculation, we'll be carrying out the calculation from her perspective, that what had been her value of estate before making the transfer and what had been the value of estate she is left with. So as what told in the question, that she used to own 6,000 shares, which was representing 60% of the holding, and where one will be having a holding of 51 to 74%, the value per share is of £26. So into 26, that would lead to what? What's going to be the total value? It is of 6,000 into 26, that will be equivalent to £156,000. So this had been her value of estate before the transfer was made. And then what was given by her? Yes, 20%. So she herself will have been left with 40%. First of all, I need to figure out the number of shares. As she used to own 6,000 shares, which was representing 60%. If she is left with 40% holding, so I am going to divide 6,000 over 60 and multiplying it with 40% to see that how many number of shares will be considered equivalent to 40% holding, and that shows that the number of shares, if one is holding 40% shares in the company, that's equivalent to 4,000 shares. And as per question, it is said that when the shareholding is found to be in between 26 to 50%, as now Linda is falling in this category because her shareholding is 40%, and the value
per share keeps on changing as far as unquoted companies are concerned. I mean, higher the shareholding you have in the unquoted company, the higher will be the market value. So now the value per share is of 15 pounds. So we have determined that she is now left with 4,000 shares where value per share is of 15 pounds. So if 4,000 is the number of shares and the value per share is of 15 pounds, that means that now Linda is left with the estate having a worth of 60,000 pounds. So how much value of estate has been transferred? The value of estate that has been transferred is found to be equivalent to 96,000 pounds. So 96,000 pounds shall be regarded as the transfer of value.